Not according to Scott.
Did you say yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I call this meeting of the High Springs Community Redevelopment Agency to order at 6:30 p.m. All please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. And since he was the last one here, I'd ask Member Byron Williams to lead us in the invocation.
Most gracious God, as we come now for this meeting, just lead us and guide us, bless us with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that we can do what's best for the city of High Springs. So again, we say thank you for your grace and your mercy. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's time, Madam Clerk, if you'll do the roll call. Here.
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 This time I'll accept a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, this time we'll have accept a motion for the approval of the minutes of September 15th, 2016 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on to business items. I have a update of our CRA extension update and the new budget format, and turn things over to our director.
All right. Am I on? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. So the good news is the county approved our plan. So that's good. I mean, they had a few catches to it, but they approved it. So we're going to start with that, with the good news. We'll do the updated budget format first. So in looking over our budget format, it became clear that while we were doing nothing wrong, it didn't accurately show how we were spending money. Everything was dropped into operating expenditures, and so it looked like our operating expenses were much higher than what they really are. So in talking to the county staff, we are using, what you have in front of you now is the budget format that Gainesville uses for their Gainesville CRA. So I'm proposing that we will use this budget format from now on, just so we can more accurately show what our actual admin and operating expenses are than how it is currently done.
It's not changing any of the budget. It's
Changing
just
nothing.
Displaying a different format.
Yeah, it just displays it different, but it doesn't change any of the categories, any of the projects, any of the amounts. It is simply put in a different format. So does anybody have any questions about that format?
I don't have a question about the format, but where you talked about the operating and administration as a percentage of revenue is 38%.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of getting into their discussion, but that's below the 50% that they're saying.
Right.
All right, I'll come back to that later when we get into.
Oh, okay. Yes, that is accurate. So, what this shows on here, what the county has a difference of opinion on with us as far as what is administrative salary, and what I can say, their commission has a difference of opinion, not their staff, is they would like us to include all of my staff time as admin time. Even though, I spend a lot of time on planning and programs and economic development and talking to their staff, they wanted us to break it out like this. The commission wants us to include it in our admin and operating expenses, and that's what the 50% would include, is that.
But in looking at other CRAs, they don't do it that way.
Correct.
So they want us to do it differently than the other CRAs.
They're not sure, because they until the meeting on Tuesday, they weren't aware that the other CRAs were not doing it like this. Their staff, I guess, were not communicating very well with them. I don't know. But the commission was not aware that the other CRAs were doing it in this format. And now this is exactly the same format as Gainesville's.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we pointed out to them, and that's why there's some discussion about what is administrative cost, what is operating cost. But even if you took my entire salary and didn't break it out, we're still at 50% for this year, and we'll go down next year. So even then, we're still at the 50%, what they're saying, even if we included all of my salary and admin. And not break it out. So I'm pretty confident in talking to Courtney that the 50% mark is not, it's totally attainable. Like, we're already there. So does anybody have any other questions about the budget format or?
What's the program staff?
Program staff, that is our downtown worker.
Planning staff?
That's me. So most CRAs have separate planners. They have separate economic development. So they will show that, and they don't include that in their admin cost. This is their planner cost. This is their economic development person cost. These are their program staff cost. We were counting it as, all salary. We didn't divide it out. So when we met with the county staff, they suggested to us, well, break out as though you were contracting out those services. So you were paying a separate planner as though you were. So what Courtney and I did is we looked at our hours for the past year and calculated about how much is spent on each of those.
Yeah, because the other CRAs, the way they get around the administrative costs is the fact that they contract out a lot of the services, even though they are really administrative. They could be considered administrative, so they don't count that. But yet it's being counted against us because we have one person, our executive director, that does that.
No, I got correct. I saw the move from, and I was just trying to. I guess I should have put the 2 and 2 together without on the deal. It's just sort of like chess piece.
Yes. It's just moving around categories to look more like Gainesville's.
Yeah. It's just presenting things in a different way that makes the county not stroke out, for lack of a better term. They're not listening, Courtney, don't worry.
So if we don't have any more comments or questions on the budget, we'll go on to what they did say they want to change in order to approve the plan. The first thing is they would only give us 2 years, but upon that, if staff is satisfactory, if they review what we're doing and there's a satisfactory review that we have met all the other requirements that they put on it, then it would automatically be extended.
Well, you're saying staff. It doesn't say that. It says the county commission has to approve it.
Right.
Statutory review of the commission.
Right. So the staff may agree with us, but if the county commission says no, then it's not. Then they don't have to approve it.
I think she meant right now. So the county commission has approved subject to the changes, and that doesn't have to go back to the county commission.
No.
These changes will just go to county staff now, and you're free to proceed forward as long as you adopt this. In 2 years, it would go back to the actual county commission for a review to verify that you've done the things that they've asked.
Right. And so we'll track how we are what we're doing and reviewing it. They already have access to our annual reports, all of our audits, all of our budgets. We already are providing all of that to them.
Okay, and it says review requirements are found in Appendix C. What is Appendix C? Is that our budget?
Appendix C will be their motion, but we don't have their actual motion yet.
Okay.
But that's what Appendix C will be.
Okay.
It'll just include their motion, so when that time comes, they'll be able to know exactly what it was they were asking for. All right, the next one is found on page 26. Their big, what they got stuck on is the fire prevention and suppression grant project we wanted to do. They don't want it as a grant. They're fine to do it as a loan program. They do not want it as a grant program.
Well, should it not say in there, though, that loans are okay?
We didn't want to put it that. We just wanted to put no grants in there. Just what they said. Loans would be okay, and we could write in there loans. But if we come up with some other funding mechanism, I'm not sure what we would do. Or if we get funds, so there are grants available for CRAs to apply to get money to do kind of like this. And we could pass through grants on that. It just cannot be grants that are utilizing CRA TIF funds. So if the state offered some kind of historical prevention grant and we applied for it on behalf of our CRA businesses, we could pass through those funds as grants to the businesses, as long as they are not TIF funds.
Okay.
Because that was their concern, was TIF funds. Any questions on that one?
But I mean, do we need to get anything in writing that the county is okay with us doing loans, or, I mean, I know that was
they stated it in
discussed.
their meeting. They recorded it.
They recorded, okay, so we can just do it that way. All right.
All right, the next change is on page 32. Before, we had already changed it to 55% of revenues. What we're doing is we're dropping it to 50% of revenues. That was the mark they wanted. And like I said, this year we are at 50% if you include all of my salary. Otherwise, if we do it by Gainesville's calculations, we're at 38%.
I do know that one of the statements that was made, at least by one commissioner, and at least some of the commissioners tended to agree, was that they want the city to pay a portion of our executive director's salary in the future. I don't know about if they're going to be looking at that for the next budget year. They know it's not in this budget year, but probably they're going to be looking for, when it comes back for them in 2 years, for the city to be paying a portion of the executive director's salary.
In addition to the total contribution. If we put in 75,000, then they want us to put in additional money towards the salary, above and beyond, like the matching money. Okay. Just lower the amount you put in.
Okay.
No, I'm just show me.
Any other questions on that? No? All right, and the last thing is on page 33 of the plan. I just added in a sentence. They wanted to make sure that we are spending most of our money on capital improvement projects, which we already are. So we just added a sentence: capital improvement projects require more funding than other objectives and initiatives and will take precedence when determining CRA budgets. And I didn't print off the next page, which includes most of the projects we're going to do. And if you looked at that, you would see that most of our funding already is going to go towards capital improvement projects.
Okay. And another issue that they mentioned it as their fourth item in talking about facade grants, and I know you told them that that's being phased out, but they are, at least seem to think that, at least a couple of them seem to think that we should not be granting or giving facade grants. And that means facade grants for businesses or facade grants for homes, either.
There was discussion by the one, but I don't think there was a consensus. I didn't feel like they were saying we couldn't do facade grants. In fact, when it came up, it was Byerly and Pinkerton, and he had said no fire suppression, and then Byerly said and facade grants, and Byerly said, Pinkerton said no, only fire suppression.
But he listed, when I listened to it, because I wasn't there for the whole thing, but then I went back and listened to it, Pinkerton listed 4 things: the 2 years, the reduction to 50%, the fire suppression, and then he said something about the facade grants. He said 1, 2, 3, 4, the facade grants.
I did not write that down, and I don't think the county had that as their motion either. But
if they didn't have their motion, fine. But that, I was listening to it again tonight, and
you can go back and check it.
Yeah.
I was under the impression the fourth was the increase in capital improvement, money towards capital improvement projects, which
and they may
kind of
have
goes part and parcel
with that. That may be how they worded it, so they don't.
You couldn't do facade grants, but I think the point is that in 2 years, when it comes back to them, the biggest part of that would be, what are you budgeting for that next year? Mm-hmm. Are you have a high percentage of capital improvement projects, or are you going to come back to them with a high number for grants to others like facade?
So basically, in 2 years, we just need to have something in our pocket that we can do as a capital improvement to
correct.
squelch all that.
What is define for me capital improvement?
For
Sidewalks,
to them.
redoing
Yeah.
sidewalks.
Bricks and mortar.
That's I mean, I can do 20 feet of a sidewalk and it may not be capital improvement. What do they consider? Dollar amount, expense? I mean, that's a vague term depending on what the dollar amount is or the scope of the work. We may consider it a capital improvement. That's all you follow what I'm saying?
Correct.
I'm with you, Jason, on the deal with it. I would want to make sure we're on the same page as to what is considered a capital improvement.
So they were fairly vague about that as well. In looking at our budget, that's how they determined really any bricks and mortar in the ground kind of doing something, whether it's an improvement to a park, sidewalks, anything that benefits the whole community and not a private business, that they're considering that.
Okay. That's what the definition is. Okay. I'm just saying, just so we know.
Yeah. That's my impression that I got. That's what they were considering those projects.
Okay.
All right. So I'll need you guys to approve these before we send them to the county for approval. They have already approved the plan. This just goes to staff. If they agree that this meets what their requirements were, they will let us know. And then I will bring back a clean one, and you'll vote again on the entire plan. So tonight I just need approval for these changes.
Does anyone have any more questions or anything they'd like to mention? Anybody like to make a motion to approve the changes? Or
I'll make a motion that the changes listed here be approved in the CRA budget. CRA, thank you.
we have a motion and a second to approve the changes to our CRA plan that's been presented to us tonight. All those in favor indicate.
Let me ask a question.
Nope, hold on.
Let me ask a question. When they talk about the deal, because I look on the budget, are they talking about money spent or money allocated when you start doing it? Because like you do the parking lot that you did and it never gets done, what makes it look like we didn't spend the money. You didn't actually spend it, you know what I'm saying? Because I mean, if you take the parking lot over here, right? I mean, you didn't spend it.
Right.
So is it spent money or is it allocated money?
For administrative cost or
Just
which one?
just-
So the administrative costs are based on revenues.
Well, I mean, they said you didn't spend enough. You don't do enough on capital. And what I'm saying is it spending or is it allocated? If we allocate, like I said, I'm going to go back to the parking lot right over here. What was it, 40 grand for the parking lot?
Yeah.
No,
No, maybe this is a ridiculous question, but I'm just saying, we didn't spend the 40,000.
Right.
So is it allocated? We have the 40,000 set aside for this grant. Minor point, but I'm just saying, I don't want them to come back and say, you didn't spend it.
Right. Well, for that one, they would have considered that a private grant because that was for a private owner's parking lot. So that one wouldn't. But let's say the farmer's market pavilion parking lot, if those funds are not spent on that parking lot, I would recommend that we find another project and we spend it on that. They're going to be looking at projects that are actually done. Not projects that we're going to be saying we're done. So in 2 years when we go back, they're going to be reviewing what projects we actually did, how did we actually spend our money, and then in the year forward, what are we budgeting for?
Yeah, but
So,
excuse me.
go ahead, sir.
You know, we're trying to look. First of all, they want a 5-year plans to know what we're going to be doing. You know, if not even more than that. You know, we've had to stretch out the different things like the rails to trails, linear park, and all of that. So that's kind of a double-edged sword there. If you know, we're trying to lay out, they want us to do a 5-year plan showing these are the projects we're going to be working on, and then, but in 2 years we have to have spent that, you know, that money. It's gonna be difficult. I mean, I think I really do.
Well, I think
there's not much we can do about it at this point.
Well, I think once we have spent out for the sidewalks, and I'll give an update on that, and the parking lot, which is moving along, that right there, we are already going to be close to $200,000. So then our reserves are going to go down, and then we're going to have to start setting aside money for the bigger projects. So we may not do it, but we'll be able to say, look, we are setting this aside, and we do have a date that we are projected to be done. It's going to be tricky, and we're going to have to work with staff closely to do it. And hope in 2 years they're nice.
Nicer.
Nicer.
I mean, is it what we want? I don't think so, but I think it's the changes that they're wanting. Some of them they don't amount to a lot. I think it's the best we can do right now, short of going into litigation and wasting a lot of money.
No,
And I just say, this next calendar year, we come up with something in the 2017, 2018 budget that is a capital improvement, and that's our goal. And then that way, when it does come up in 2 years, we can show, hey, this is what we did with it. And then we can move on from there and go to what our actual major goals are from there once it gets approved in 2 years, is my personal opinion. And I'm sorry, Susie, I forgot to say your citizens' requests or comments, but anytime tonight you want to talk, just pop up. We'll pick you out. All right. Any other commissioners? All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the changes to the CRA plan. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Can I ask one question, please?
Go ahead.
When you will be emailing all of us the revised final approved plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you'll get that emailed to you as soon as the county accepts this.
Okay.
When they accept these changes, then I'll email it to you. All right. Next up,
Update on the quilt murals.
All right. So
Which
we have
I believe is why Susie's here. For some reason.
There she go.
This is the worst part about all this. I'm a couple of hundred feet short of being in the CRA district. So when I put my quilt block up, you really want that on? Okay. Like I said, I've discovered that I'm a couple of hundred feet away from the CRA borderline. So I'm going to have to pay for my own blocks, which should be interesting. First of all, I have invitations for you from the Stephanie Metz over at the Trenton Museum on the 19th of November at 10:30 in the morning. Susie Perrin, who's the gal that kind of got all this whole business started with 2 books. One that was Barn Quilts in the American Quilt Trail Movement, and then her more recent one, which came out this year, is Following the Barn Quilt Trail. Everybody seems to think it's just going on barns. Well, a lot of the cities and counties that don't have a whole lot of barns are putting them on buildings and walls and things like that. So here's an invitation for you, my dear, as CRA, and you as the head boss man.
Who?
And you as the mayor. How's that?
Okay.
And this Susie Perrin, it's going to be a book signing, and she's going to do a presentation about it. But I brought just a couple of info. One of the things that they're planning on doing, this is through the Quilt Guild and group down in Trenton, is they're going to put together some kind of a brochure that will list where the quilts are and what they are in the different counties. And this is just a few. This particular one is a walking tour. And so that's what they're planning on doing, will be to put something like this together with a map indicating where the blocks are. And in case you don't know a whole lot of quilters, we're crazy. We get on buses and drive around and look at these things and spend money in towns and go to lunch and things like that all at one time. So this just kind of gives you an idea of something different that will help to bring people into town. And we are part of, it's a tri-county, because they're also up in White Springs. They're working on them in, what's that?
Over that.
Over that way, yeah.
The city over there?
Yeah, that city over
Okay.
there. As well as Trenton, and of course now we have one on the old school. I went around, so far we have approvals for 3, Betty's Antique Center, and she's looking at, these probably don't mean anything to you, but we'll have, once they decide, we'll have pictures for you. She's looking at the Star of the West block, the Lone Star block, Crossroads block, or Twisted Star block. And now what we did
I like the Twisted Star.
Do you like Twisted Star?
That's my favorite.
As we did over on the school, when we were first talking about it, I was a little afraid that if we put just one big picture of the one school block, that it would look kind of funny. People wouldn't realize what it was. So that's why we went with the 4. Mm-hmm. So it definitely looks like a quilt block. So they're still trying to decide on that. Bennett's Hardware, excuse me, is looking at a flag heart, a particular patriotic one, and another one called Carpenter's Square, or Carpenter's World is another name for it. And Ed Kaysen over at Alice's is looking at one of the old flag ones. And Hospice, they're still trying to get approval from the Benzes to be able to, because they have 2 walls we could do, for them. Mm-hmm. So, and I just realized I only brought 3 of these.
Oh, I already gave them.
Oh, you already have? Good. Well, then we'll put them over in the museum then. So that's basically an update. If you folks can go to this meeting, I think you will enjoy her. Susie Perrin is quite a gal, and she's a good speaker. And it would also give you a chance to meet Stephanie and Paul Metz, and get a chance to look at the quilt museum that they have over there. They have one room that will be an ever-changing, and it doesn't have to be just antiques, because she had 2 of my bug quilts there all summer, because it was typical Florida summer with bugs. But the rest of it, some of what they're bringing in the way of antique quilts is just phenomenal. And, I mean, when busloads of gals arrive to go just to Trenton to be able to go in the museum there and see what they have put up around the town already, that's a pretty good indication that it's a good tourist draw.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yes, Susie and I, we walked the town, and we identified the buildings that we thought would be the best for it to go on. And of those buildings, these are the 3 that agreed to do it right now. Like she said, Hospice, they're working it out and seeing if the Bents will let them do it. But these have agreed right now. So what we will do tonight is, if you guys approve this, we will move forward with the owners and work on agreements with them, work out designs, and then we will bring it back to you for you guys to decide final design on it.
And the one I'm looking at can be done, as my building has got a lot of windows, so it would make it a little difficult. But I've got one small section in the front, and the one that I'm looking at is from the Civil War, and it was part of the Underground Railroad, and it's called Follow the Drinking Gourd, and it's just a dark navy blue background with a palm tree and the Big Dipper up in the sky. And I can shrink it down to fit the front of my wall. So like I say, I miss being in the CRA district, but I can pay for my own.
So is this considered a bricks and mortar project?
This is. They did agree that murals were.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. So the one for Alice, they're not in the CRA district, are they?
They are.
Yeah, they are.
That
Yeah.
road, Barber's is the last building in the CRA district, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a lucky one.
So then, okay.
And he's tickled pink because he wants to put it on that one outside wall that faces the side road there, and will be visible from 441. And he definitely wants some kind of a flag.
And speaking of Alice's, just in case there is anybody listening, Miss Lola that actually owned Alice's passed away, but her brother and her grandson that are inheriting the business are still wanting to proceed forward with it. So
Yeah.
kind of continue what she started.
So that's the good part. Yeah.
All right.
So you need a motion, is that what we're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to approve the requested murals for the 3 businesses that are before us.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the request for the 3 businesses that are before us, and then they'll come back with final adoption at a later date. Any other questions? Or
So we don't, I know you mentioned something about the hospital, so we don't need to worry about them.
Not right now, not until we get able to talk with the owners.
All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mrs.
Susie.
Oh, this will be very.
All right. We have some grant updates, Madam Director?
Yes. So the first update is Ms. Goodbranson. She had been awarded a residential facade grant for $600. She withdrew her grant. She's unable to find anyone to do the work, so she won't be utilizing that grant. And then besides that, the Kennedys closed on their grant for their roof for $5,000. And our only open commercial grant that's left is Constance Hughes. And speaking to her, it should be done in the next 30 days.
Oh, I think you brought it up the last time, the house that was painted white.
Mm-hmm.
That's up for sale. She understands. Yeah, you said that she would be paying that back.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes. Unfortunately, she thought she had a serious buyer, but she doesn't.
Okay.
They withdrew it, so she doesn't have anybody right now that's interested in it. So it may be a while. And that's all the updates I have for the grants.
Any other questions about the grants? We also have an update on the downtown sidewalks.
Yes. So I have been talking to Craig Teal out of the Lake City office. We're trying to work out the agreement. He has passed it on to Adam Doyle in Gainesville because they couldn't figure out how they were going to do the agreement. So Mr. Doyle is working on an agreement for us, and he will. As soon as he sends it to me, I will bring it back to you. Basically, it's just going to give us a permission to move forward with the sidewalks.
Is this DOT?
Mm-hmm. It's taken quite a while, and they are projected to go to bid on November 16th for the resurfacing. So they are quite a bit behind in their schedule.
But we're going to have our agreement in time so we can get the design done for the sidewalks for when they do all of this, because that's when it's going to be done, right?
Yeah, they're not going to be starting until probably May or June.
Okay.
And we should have the agreement in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
But we still have to wait for them to finish all their
Right.
engineering and everything before we can even start ours.
Correct. Yeah, they're quite a bit behind in theirs.
Any other questions about the sidewalks? All right, does any member have any questions or anything they'd like to bring up at this time? All right. The only things I'd like to mention, one, once everything gets finalized with the county, with the plan and everything, I would like us to figure out if we are able to do a loan program for the fire suppression. I'd like us to figure out how we're going to do that and kind of the terms of it, because I do think that's a good program, and I think one, it'll improve the safety of downtown, and two, if nothing else, the business owners in the area, if they do get the fire suppression, it'll help them on their insurance, which I think hopefully will be a selling point.
I do have one thing.
Member Willer?
Several of us have gone to the CRA training, and in that CRA training, and I'm sure we can get it through the organization, there's things that they say that CRAs can do with their money. I think for future, it would behoove us to get to draw something up from that training to make sure we have it in hand to give to the county the next time, so that we can say, look, this is the organization that trains everybody in the state on how and what to use, what you can use CRA funds for, and that's how all the CRAs operate, rather than, it won't convince some people, but at least it's there and out in the public,
Yeah, I understand.
So there may be Westmoreland? What's her
Yes,
name?
Carol Westmore.
Okay. Every time she has some training, maybe she needs to send an invitation To the county commissioners.
Yes.
And then
They just go there and say, Carol, you're wrong. That's not what is wrong.
We don't care.
I'm sure you should send them an invitation to them to come and sit, listen.
Oh, yeah.
Good night. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the only other thing I'd like to mention, I know last year or maybe earlier this year, remember Byron had mentioned something about the Douglas area, trying to do a CRA in that district. Well, with how friendly the county's been on this CRA, me personally, I seriously doubt they're going to approve a second CRA for High Springs. But while we were at the convention, the FRA convention, they had a speaker that was actually from a neighborhood improvement district. And it's very similar to a CRA. Pretty much, though, I mean, they can still get grants. They can give out money. There's the only big difference is there's no TIF funding for a neighborhood improvement district. But I do think it's something, it could give us a start to where we could start improving that area. And also maybe make it where we could work with, other agencies, maybe have some interlocals, affordable housing type deal. And I think it might be something at least I would like to look into. And once the plans for our CRA has been approved, I'd like us to have a workshop sometime after the start of the year, after the holidays, to maybe talk about it and see what ways something like that could benefit that area of town, because I do think that's another area of town that we could look into helping, just like the CRAs helping businesses and homes downtown. That's another area that we could help, and maybe that might be an instrument we could use to do that. And then, Madam Director, do you have any other reports at this time?
I do. Believe it or not, it's almost Christmas already. You may have noticed that the banner started going up this week. Christmas decorations will go up next week. The trees will be trimmed the beginning of the week after that, so that the chamber can decorate their tree. On the other side, the tree that's not looking so great, but it did survive, that's going to be like a natural tree, and there's some different children's groups that are going to be putting up like natural ornaments on that tree.
What is a natural ornament?
Like, made out of wood. They're biodegradable. You can feed the birds. They're natural ornaments. Yeah. Yeah.
Stuff,
They don't need electricity. We don't have electricity over there. Exactly. So yes.
Corn for the hanging corn for the deer.
Yeah, because we got a lot of deer in that section of town. I hit them all the time right there.
Well, you could hang something to feed the cats.
I know.
Hey, we could hang some dead birds off the tree to feed the cats.
And this year we're going to be putting poinsettias downtown also. So those will be going in as soon as they arrive in at Lowe's, which should be the last week of November, right before Thanksgiving.
Are we planting them or just?
We're going to be planting them in the same pots. So all the spring and summer flowers have died. So we'll be removing the spring and summer flowers and putting in the new poinsettias. And hopefully they'll last till we put the spring flowers in.
Have the lights on the poles all been replaced now? The
Nope, those will be going up this week too. Next week. Yep.
Okay, because there was quite a bit that were out, and I guess we were waiting for.
We got for the bucket truck, which is here.
Okay.
I had a training yesterday on the bucket truck.
You get to get.
Are you using it?
I did not go in, but they wanted me to know how to do it because the CRA guy is going up there.
Okay.
So, but I was wearing the wrong shoes, so I didn't have to go in the bucket. I just had to learn how to do the controls.
Okay. Just don't get in the bucket and go up, okay?
I know, yeah. No, it's high. It's like goes up 44 feet, I think, something like that. I was like, whoo.
Mess on that.
Yeah, it's higher than I thought. Also, this past month, I met with Visit Gainesville on how we can partner together. And in the spring, they think they're going to be doing their billboard program again. We won't be doing it, but there is a new merchants group that's starting downtown that some of the merchants are doing on their own, and they contacted me, and so I'll just be hooking them up, and they will be doing the match themselves, those businesses. in the spring. So I'll keep you informed with that. There will be no music in the park for November or December. It is the time off. And the farmers market will be having their fresh access grand opening December 1st. It was supposed to be November, but the program had a delay in getting all the stuff shipped to us that we needed to start. So it's going to be December 1st. And they'll have a grand opening, and they're going to put flyers up around town. They'll have music and demonstrations, all kinds of things for that day. And then their Santa at the Market is December 22nd. And the last thing is the James Paul Park master plan. And looking what the funds we had set aside, we had set aside $8,000 for that. We've decided to get an intern from UF to work on that plan and see how far it can take it. And we will be sharing that intern with Parks and Recreation. It's a 40-hour intern starting in the spring. So he'll be doing like 10 hours of James Paul Park a week. And then the rest will be the different Parks and Recreation stuff. And that will start in January. So we're very excited. We're partnering with the Parks and Recreation Board. They were very happy about it. So does anybody have any questions for me about things that are going on?
The Farmers Market Pavilion, do you know where that's at this point?
Jenny, do you know where it's at? I know that they...
Do you remember it's on that big poster board that we had in here for like 6 months?
And where we had the check, the card. Okay.
I do not know. The last time I think I checked with Jennifer about a week and a half ago on that, and the engineer was still working on the plans.
Okay. As long as something's still being worked on.
It's being worked on. It is being worked on. I do know that.
Okay.
So.
It didn't go away.
No.
Okay.
Somebody in a big office is going like this to the picture. Thank you.
Considering it.
Yes.
All right. So our next meeting is scheduled for December 1st, and at that time I'll bring forth the final plan.
Okay.
I just mention one thing.
Come on, Susie,
Since we're talking about holidays, the museum is going to have a little tiny gift shop, and in there is going to be mug rugs of trains, bibs of trains, and humbug bags of trains that I've been sewing up a storm for them. So if you're wondering gifts for somebody that might be into trains, get over to the museum. They'll have them for you.
And don't ask her to explain what they are, okay?
Well, I was wondering.
No, it's for your coffee mug or for your money or big adult bibs for when you go.
You've seen me eat, Susie. All right. Anything else, Madam? All right. Any other member? Anything? All right. This time we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And we're adjourned at 7:12 p.m. What is a humbug bag?